Welcome to episode 5 of the Universe. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Tristan.
We're going to start the show with the drama rundown, where we talk about a few shows that we're watching. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a heavy load, so I'm actually going to let Tristan go first.
Ooh.
So that I don't have to bum you out first thing on the show.
Oh yeah, because my stuff that I watched is actually pretty lighthearted.
Really happy.
Really happy. So I started watching Love 020 based off of Rachel's recommendation, actually. It's a Chinese drama that I was watching on Netflix. And it is about Zhao Nai, who is a campus king due to his good looks, basketball skills, and academic scores. And he falls in love with the quote-unquote belle of his department, Bai Weiwei. And he falls in love when he sees her playing an MMORPG at an internet cafe, and then he pursues her both in-game and out of game. And this drama is so cute.
It's adorable, right?
It is so lighthearted, and like the male lead
doesn't put up with anybody's crap.
No. So he is super sure of himself, very determined, and he goes after Weiwei with no questions about what he wants out of their relationship. And there's a part where something goes on and he's in a group of people that are commenting about Weiwei, that she's on some type of website, and he pulls up the website, he hacks into it and deletes the page. Like, he is not taking anybody's shit about anything with his girlfriend. And I also like the switch between playing in-game and real life, because when they go into playing into the game, you see them as their characters dressed up in costumes, actually fighting in the game and walking around and doing the in-game stuff, which, I mean, costumes are a little bit, hokey, but it's cute.
In general, I think the gameplay is a little bit hokey, but if you can get past that, the relationship and how it plays into their lives is just really cute. It isn't deep or meaningful. It's just one of those series that, like, if you want a romantic comedy, this is the one for you, right? I forced my mom to watch it with me, and she loved it. Every second of it. She thought it was totally goofy, but it's just one of those really fun romantic comedies that sometimes you just need.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to stop watching it. I'm about 11 episodes into it, and I made the mistake of having my friend watch the trailer of it, and now we're going to have to watch it together. But I'm getting her to watch the rest of Untamed, which we're near the end of. So once we're done with that, then we're going to start this so that I can actually complete and watch it.
You guys don't hear me, but I'm booing in the background.
I'll get there. I want to be able to watch it with her, and actually, because I think she will really enjoy this one. So I started watching Clean with a Passion for now, which Rachel and I tried to watch the new Chinese version of this called Use for My Talent, which we didn't even get 30 minutes into the first episode.
I mean, I was there for Jasper Liu taking his clothes off, and then his character was just awful. Like, just terrible.
To me, he seemed very obnoxious and over the top about his disorder. And while there can be people like that out there, it just seemed too much. I wanted to start watching the Korean version of it because I've heard a lot of actual good things about it. And so the Korean version is about a wealthy CEO who owns a cleaning company, and he also suffers severe mysophobia, which is the fear of germs and contaminants and dirt and stuff like that. And he meets the exact opposite of him, carefree and untidy in Seoul. And after much random happenstance, she ends up working at his company. And they pretty quickly, it's very obvious that he cannot stand anything to do with her at first. And then slowly is realizing that he can actually touch her without fainting or being completely revolted and disgusted. It's a rom-com, so for me, it's a little bit too much. There's a lot of cringe-worthy parts to it. But if you just want something to laugh and have a good time with, it's cute. I really like the brother, Osol's brother, who is actor Lee Do-hyun, who was in Sweet Home. And I really liked him in that. And his character is very loyal, and he's very protective of his older sister. And he's also in 18 Again and Youth of May, which I think Youth of May is currently airing. Also, I really like the secondary male lead, who she knows him as the rooftop perv. And he is a guy that rents out the rooftop of the building that she's living in. And you can always see him in a tracksuit and holding hentai manga, walking around. And he looks homeless, basically, or jobless. Not homeless, jobless. He's kind of like a lazy bum.
That's not creepy at all.
And then you learn that he's a doctor, like not just any doctor. He is a neuropsychologist and has been in love with Ursula for like 6 years. I really like his character. When she found out he was a doctor, he confessed to her of liking her. And she's just like, wait, what? You can't be serious, right? It's really good. So way better so far that I've seen than what we did see, a little snippet of the Chinese version. I'm about 10 or 11 episodes into it right now, so I'm going to finish it pretty quickly. And I really like the chemistry between Ursula and the main guy, Sun-gyul. I will say though, while his acting with the phobia isn't as over the top as Jasper's, it's still pretty over the top. A little bit cringeworthy, but they do a good job of showcasing how it affects his day-to-day life.
I've had that one on my list for a while, and I just think that sometimes, like the Jasper Lew series, sometimes they go overboard with the OCD kind of disorders in general, and it gets to a point where I'm like, well, I don't think that I'm actually going to watch it, and I don't end up watching it. This, of course, coming from the girl that, you know, my favorite series of all time is It's Okay, That's Love, which we're about to talk about, but that's my favorite series, which is rife with mental disorders, but in a very different way. It's not poking fun at them, or it isn't the main plot of the story. Well, I say that. Is it though? It kind of is. But I wanted to let Tristan go first because I ended up watching The Blue Hour. So I'm going to talk about it later, but I am watching on my off time. I'm watching Off Gun Fun Night, and one of the guests was Obe, who is apparently the other main actor from Gun and his movie called The Blue Hour. And it is a story of a bullied teenager whose name is Tam, who befriends and has a sexual relationship with a mysterious gay boy, Poom, at a haunted, abandoned pool. Their affair starts out as romance and later kind of shifts to darker territory. So that is the My Drama List sort of synopsis. I was not going to try and give you a synopsis because honestly, it's kind of all over the place. I have so much to say, it's a little ridiculous. I want to talk for a minute and bring it back to American television, even though that isn't really what this podcast is for. And I apologize, but I promise this ties back in. I love David Lynch. I didn't see Twin Peaks until much, much later in life. I was in college when a friend told me about the series back in the early 2000s. And I was so bummed that I had missed out on it because, like, Twin Peaks is everything that I could possibly hope for in a really weird series. It was a cacophony of like weird and wonderful television. You know, Buffy was still airing. Was it still airing? Yeah, Buffy was still airing when I was in college, and it was just wonderful, basically, which is not where I'm going with this, but anytime I see an opportunity to open up to Twin Peaks, I'm going to take it. So I want to say that before I start talking about this, if you haven't seen this movie, I plan on spoiling the whole thing. So if you have or have not seen it, or if you are squeamish, this review might not be for you. I would probably say skip over because this whole movie deals with some really heavy topics. If you've seen The Effect, it isn't like The Effect in that it deals with rape, but the topics are just as gut-wrenching. For me, this movie is a lot like Mulholland Drive. Both protagonists have an obvious mental health issue. The implication here, at least my feeling, is that Tam is schizophrenic. Both protagonists cause harm to those around them without even knowing what they're doing, and they evolve into kind of this crazy, terrible purgatory of their own making. The dark tone, the muted colors, the way the camera loses focus several times, literally everything in this movie reminds me of David Lynch. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say that, you know, there's nobody like David Lynch. That's not what I'm saying. This movie does it really well. Despite the really shitty reviews of this movie online, this movie does it really, really well. So I want to talk about the good parts of this rather than devolving into a stuttering idiot about how much I love David Lynch, because there's so much about this movie to love. The acceptance of who you are from both yourself and those around you and how important it is. The seriousness of mental health disorders. The fine line between dreams themes in reality, which again, the surrealism is definitely Lynch, and the importance of making your own family. When I came out of this is not a take that most people get out of this. And I realize that Poom is a made up character, but you make your own family. You aren't stuck with those just because they gave birth to you. I know that a lot of people might not agree with me, but especially for the LGBTQ community, if they don't accept who you aren't, just because you share their blood, you are not required to continue to love them or to hope that one day they accept you as you are. That is not okay in my mind, right? So that's kind of a big thing for me with this movie. And it's just so good. And the last thing I was going to say is everything in the movie kind of connected back at the end. But my favorite part of the whole thing, and I know it's the saddest part, is the suicide. But them walking into the water at the end and then just committing suicide together. I know, again, Poom is a made-up character and he's not real. I get it. It was just so good. And I really enjoyed the movie, and I know I gave it away here, but if you haven't seen it, I so recommend it. Gunn is oh my God, I've never seen him do something quite like this. And I'm not a fan of Theory of Love. I like it in some parts, and some parts I don't, but I have like this whole new respect for Gunn after this movie that you should absolutely see this movie. It is that good. The Blue Hours, it will leave you with feelings. Like you will not just walk away and be okay. That is not how I see anybody walking away from this movie. And I recommend probably watching it twice, because there's a lot of things in it that I feel like you won't catch the first time. So definitely give it a chance. Gunn is fantastic. I mean, and Oak too. I don't want you guys to think that I don't appreciate Oak's character, because he was so good. If you're looking for a BL, this is not a BL. This is not a coming of age romance, of like coming out. This is a series about a boy who literally just has a super shitty lot in life and, doesn't have anyone around him to kind of accept him for who he is. And, he finds peace in the end, but it's not necessarily the way that I would hope that people would find peace. So I'm just saying it's really good, but it's a little heavy. Like I talked about before, I was thinking, I told Tristan this too. I was like, I wanted to watch something light and happy. And I was thinking, oh yeah.
Yeah. And what did you end up choosing?
It's Okay, That's Love. Yeah, because it's billed as a rom-com, which is so ridiculous. I mean, it is a rom-com, right? It is definitely funny in bits and pieces, but then it's not really a rom-com. I mean, it is, but it's another one about two broken individuals kind of coming together and finding love. Like, that's basically what this one's about. So I want to give you what MDL says, or My Drama List says about this one, so that you kind of know. If you don't know, I highly recommend this one. This is my all-time favorite, hands down. Nothing tops this. So My Drama List says, it's a doctor bumps into an award-winning writer in a talk show, which leads them to a heated debate on an upcoming book about human goodness. The man comes from a murder case, and the woman comes from a family that has a ton of debt, and she faces her anxieties even as a psychiatrist, and they start slowly falling in love. Through thick and thin, the couple faces the problems of psychological disorders with the hopes of having their love prevail amidst their considerable differences in lifestyles and beliefs. So I really did think that this one was going to counteract Blue Hour, which, I don't know why I thought that, but I remember a lot of the adorable happy scenes from It's Okay, That's Love instead of the more terrible ones. The first 5 minutes of the show having the transgender girl be admitted to the hospital because her family beat her to death because they can't accept who she is, or the mother who tries to take out of the hospital because she thinks that she can force the family to accept her for who she is, and she still ends up back at the hospital beaten to a pulp. So maybe this wasn't the best series to watch, and I will tell you, like, it doesn't matter how many times I watch this, I still bawl my eyes out like a little baby. I mean, the scene, and especially rewatching it now, I'm gonna spoil something big, so if you have not seen it, you might want to fast forward. Jae Yul running with Do-min across the speedway and talking to him and running like he's happy, and then the camera panning out and you see it's just Jae-yul, that's really sad in my opinion. It's sad because Jae-yul doesn't even know that he has problems that need help, and yet he's falling in love with this woman who also has her own anxieties about totally different things. I do, however, want to talk about the good things about the series. I love Gong Hyo-jin anyway, but Haesoo literally does not put up with any of his crap. When he starts his stuff, she knocks it down like immediately. She's like, I'm not interested in you. I'm not going to sleep with you. I won't end up in your bed. And, you know, he tells her, you know, it'll be you that ends up walking into my bed. And this is all, of course, before he knows about her disorders and things that she's putting up with in her life. So the series is adorable. I'm only 4 episodes in. I put this on again because I really wanted to break it up from the Blue Hour, which sent me to bed several times. A little unhappy.
It's comforting to go back to things that you have already watched, because while there's still the emotional feel to it, it's less like you have to pay attention to it since you've already seen it.
I absolutely agree. And I know that the 2 characters in It's Okay, That's Love end up together, spoiler alert, and they are, you know, they get the help that they need, right? In the Blue Hour, Tam doesn't get the help that he needs. There's never a point where anybody reaches out to him other than Poom, which is a, you know, again, I don't want to ruin it for people, but he's a made up character. It's a little different, a little depressing, but both shows, one is a movie, but one I can't recommend enough, and the other, I would say, I will stab you if you say you don't like, because It's Okay, That's Love is, there's nothing bad about that.
We are not forcing bodily harm on the few listeners that we have.
Fine.
We need all of them.
We love you all, I promise. So if we seg into what it is we're watching.
Happier stuff.
Into much happier stuff.
Much happier
all
stuff.
All of the stuff actually, save for Fish Upon the Sky, is gonna be super happy. So, you know, Rachel can't bring down the whole episode anymore. So I posted it up on Instagram, but we finished Lovely Writer because its last episode aired. I posted about the breaking the fourth wall and how good it was.
You had been talking about how in Fish Upon the Sky, they do that with Duan talking with the narrator. Right. And you had wished that had happened more. So then we get to the end of Lovely Writer and we were cheering when they look at the camera.
That little eyebrow wiggle at the end.
It's so cute.
It's so good.
So good.
So I just want to say too, to tie it back in with the actual series, it makes so much sense for Lovely Writer, right? Fish Upon the Sky is like Tanhan Chan Lati. It's just a goofy series. Breaking the Fourth Wall is there as a comedic effect. That's why it's there in that series. For Lovely Writer, it's there because they're making a point about the boys in the boys' love industry. And that's why it's so good in Lovely Writer. If you can't quite figure out or place your finger on why it's good, it's because they're making a point about the boys' love industry. I mean, yes, they're also making a point that the boys are adorable and that they're going to kiss. And, you know, we get it. Like, yes, Cow and Up are adorable. But also, you know, they're making a point. That end scene, I don't know what to call it other than that end scene where they actually put the writer in the series.
Oh, yeah. When they're in the cafe. I thought that was ingenious. The fact that you actually have the author in the show, considering this entire time you're talking about the fans thinking it's wrong to have the writer involved in the series to begin with. So I really appreciated that they did that for this series.
Exactly.
But speaking of endings, how many endings did this show have?
I mean, I needed all of them except for the Romeo and Juliet one. I was so upset about that one. I was like, why did this even have to be included?
Did you watch the TikTok that I sent you about the ending behind the sines of the Romeo and Juliet one?
Where they were goofing
off, laughing the entire time.
So they thought it was adorable, and I'm over here like, Tristan and I were watching it together, and I was like, they're not really going to do Romeo and Juliet. That's not what's happening. And Tristan's like,
I mean, they were dressed for the part. So.
And they were dressed for the Leonardo DiCaprio one.
Yes.
So I was especially torn up. I was like, no, we're not gonna do this to me today.
The other two were super cute and fluffy, and then this one was just, we're gonna commit suicide.
So I still think my favorite was the Snow White one, just because I love the prince will wake up the prince, and it's just so cute. The Cinderella one was fine, whatever, it was fine, but I love the Snow White one. That one was great. I also really like Jean telling Nubsib, this is the crap that you come up with, like, this isn't good.
The fact that all of that was Cal's thoughts.
Yeah, all of it was Cal. Like, let's be real here.
No, I was really happy to see, because there was a time progression at the end, him getting his book finalized to be published.
He deserved it.
He totally deserved that. And I know we had talked about it, that we didn't like him to begin with.
We didn't in the first couple episodes.
We did not. He was obnoxious, almost. But then, like, you slowly get the understanding that he's being told what to do from Bua, and then finally, like, he grows more or less of a backbone when he decides not to tell Jean what to do with breaking up with Nubsib, and then Jean taking his book to Bua, like, no, you need to read this. It's actually really good. I really appreciated all of that.
I think the only thing in Lovely Writer that I wasn't happy with was Owie's stuff. Again, Bruce, whatever we're going to call him. I really feel like there should have been more of a resolution for him. Tiffy abandoning him, and like, that's just not, I don't know how it is in the book. I do know that I read the synopsis for the last couple of chapters, and they don't even mention Bruce's character, so I don't know if, maybe in the prior chapters they had already dealt with whatever happened with A or Owie, whatever we're calling him. But I can say, like, him sitting there eating the chocolates and then stuffing his face with the flowers because he's distraught and lost, that was not a good ending for me for him. I don't appreciate that. I wish they had more of a resolution. I can deal with it because the writer sort of made, I say writer, but it was really the screenwriter here, because my understanding from the book is that it's dealt with a lot differently. But the screenwriter here made a choice to only kind of ambiguous as to who the actual, because they made you feel so bad for A that at that point, like, I don't know if he was really the bad guy in the series or if it was just the BL industry as a whole, because in my opinion, in the series, it was much more the BL industry as a whole is terrible and forces these boys to do things that they shouldn't have to do. And A just kind of played into that to keep himself relevant. I feel like that's my take on A in the show, at least.
No, that would make sense. I mean, I don't think he started out being as petty as he was towards the end, because when he started, he was all hopeful and he did the audition. And I do genuinely feel like at some point he did like Jean as a writer.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And then he got into the pressures of what actually goes on in the BL industry and how he needed to be perceived with the fans and how him and Nubsib needed to be perceived as. And I think that took him in a whole different mindset that he was not prepared for with already the stuff that had been happening with his family.
I'm in agreement with everything she said. And I feel like I would really like to spend the time to go back and read the book and just kind of flesh out the characters more, which is why I read the BL novels, as you guys are aware by now. But the whole reason I read the BL in novel form is because I like fleshing out the characters more than what they give me in the show.
Side note, because I just thought about it, bought the dolls.
Oh, yeah.
So I found them up for sale on CD Tie. CD as an album CD. CD Tie. They have a pool of them up there, so I was able to finally get us 2 of them, which was so much easier because I could use PayPal.
Yeah.
So happy.
The other thing that we watched was episode 6 of Fish Upon the Sky.
The cuteness. Oh my God.
I was going to say, you have no notes. Do you have something to say?
That I wrote here? No. So I do love Fish Upon the Sky, but I will be completely honest, outside of the 2 scenes that I can remember of it, which is the crossing the street scene where Mork pretends that he can't see.
And the shoulder wiggle. I'm here for that shoulder wiggle.
I need that in a GIF, like, forever. Outside of that scene and then the scenes at the end, I don't remember a whole lot else that was going on because we watched so much stuff this week.
We really did. We're grateful that Lovely Writer ended, even though we didn't really want it to end, but we have so many other things that we've picked up now. You know, we watched Oh My Boss tonight, and we want to talk about that, even though we didn't put it in the show notes.
Oh, we are going to talk about it?
We are going to talk about it. And Doom at Your Service started. We want to talk about that because there's no better show on television right now. But I have a few notes for Fish Upon the Sky. Literally just a few, because Tristan's over here counting them.
I'm counting. A few is how many? 3. 3 is a few. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This bitch won't leave me alone.
Okay, more than a few.
If we're going off the standard of Lovely Writer, that means, of course,
no, you cannot judge anything based off of Lovely Writer.
That's what I was about to say. Is my favorite BL of all time is probably Lovely Writer. We've had this discussion about how
it did finally kick off.
It kicked
We
off.
Best Love.
Let's be real. So nothing compares to Lovely Writer. However, I do want to say Fish Upon the Sky has all the elements that I love in a series. I love the breaking of the fourth wall. I love the comedy. I love the goofiness. I love the arrogance and the confidence of the main characters. It just has everything that I want in a series, and there's nothing. Tristan laughs at me all the time. I
do
like the buildup of a series. That's what I like.
Yeah. Well, so you like it watching the actual progression of getting into the relationship.
Exactly.
Versus if it's already established, or if it establishes too quickly.
Too fast.
What's the point then of the show?
Watching the show. Yeah, no, there is no point. And that's why it's just crazy to me. I really like the buildup. And Fish Upon the Sky has that really good buildup. And let me explain, because I feel like everybody's going to say, oh, well, episode 7, is the obvious progression of their relationship, and then the rest of the season is just going to be Mork and P. So I want to say this. I'm going to get a little sad again. I think P is broken in some really unfortunate ways. He is one of those characters that he has lived his whole life kind of in this shadow of his brother. This is the feeling again that I get. He is distrustful of other people. He doesn't think, in the first episode when his friends betray him, or the second episode? It's pretty early on. Literally the only people in P's life that he has ever had to protect him and love him and legitimately stick up for him, Doohan, even though he's a little jerk, but we still love him, and Juan, and his parents. And in this episode, you see the breaking down of the relationship with his mother. You see the relationship with Mix's character not going well, and him telling him, I don't think you like me. And it eventually just breaks him. I really do think that this is the episode where P just is broken. And that line from Mork about how he wants to be his vaccine is more about like, let me show you that you can trust people and there's goodness in people, and you don't have to be this arrogant, jerky, knee-jerk reaction to everybody that you meet and see. Like, people can be trusted and aren't all bad. P has met some really shitty people, and Mork is not one of them. And side note, neither is Nan. Nan's not a bad person. He's going through his own shit, which we won't get into, but Nan's going through his own shit, and he's a legitimately good person to P and has never treated him badly. And this series is just so unbelievably good. And P's such a good and interesting character. And that end scene of episode 6 was everything that I could have possibly wanted. I know P was crying and it was super sad. And I agree it was sad, but it was everything I needed, because somebody has to build P back up and tell him not everybody is like this, and there's goodness in the world.
Well, I think you were mentioning Nan being a kind person towards the end of that episode when he lets P down, like,
really gently.
So gently, like, you can just tell, like, he doesn't want to hurt him, but he needs to get across his point, and he does it in the gentlest manner ever. And you could tell it also hurt him to even have to say it.
Nan genuinely likes people, I think, despite the crap that he goes through with his family. I personally think that the whole scene with P and Mork sitting by the pool was wrong. I don't think that the only reason that P liked Nan was because he was good looking. I think the main reason that P liked Nan was because he saw in him a kindness that he hasn't seen in another person. And Mork came to him in a way that I think startled P. I heard a reference somewhere, and I feel like it was probably in Reddit. Mork came to P like a scared cat and kept coming at P like a scared cat. Instead of backing off and letting him like adjust to him, he basically just kept going and kept going. And with a scared cat, that's the way you have to do it, because they're
persistence.
Right. Persistence is the only way. P is not some broken dog that needs to be gently nudged and then backed away and then gently nudged and backed away. Like, he needs that persistence is the word of somebody coming to him and showing him that like that I like you and that I'm not going anywhere and that this is real, basically. Like,
even if some of it tends to be more not making fun of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna say banter, like the banter that Mork has with him.
It is.
It's to me, when you're talking about a scared cat, it's a consistent comfort.
Right.
Which is what you have to give to a cat for them to become comfortable with you.
Yeah.
If you're not giving a consistency of, I'm here for you, you can count on me, I won't fail you, I'm not going to let you down. Mork goes through so many different ways of showing P that he's there for him.
Yeah.
Without outright saying, I'm here for you.
Until, that last episode where he was like, hey.
Until he does.
Until he does. No, I mean, I agree with everything she's saying. Until Mork is finally like, he's just not getting it. I like you, and I only like you, and that's it. So, Fish Upon the Sky is so good, and it has, in my opinion, it has a deeper context than Tanhan Chanlati.
Okay? Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like Tanhan, don't get me wrong, but I like the introspective P and Mork as well, and much better than Tanhan, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think that it trumps that one a lot.
Yeah.
I will say, there already is a void where Lovely Writer is right now in my heart. God. But I think Fish Upon the Sky is going to have more so of one when it goes off air.
Yeah, I will be super sad. I've said this before, but I'm really looking forward to Puin's adventures into movie making, television, whatever it is that he wants to do. Like, I'm super into it, and I hope he does well. We're going to follow him to the end of the world. You know who else I'm going to follow to the end of the world?
So Gook.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Forever and ever. So... I told Tristan too, like, one of my favorite series is Mr. Monster. Hello Monster?
Hello Monster.
It's Hello Monster. So it's really good. It's also Seongguk, and it's so good. Shopping King Louie wasn't necessarily my favorite series by him, but I watched it when it came out and I did like it. It was sort of goofy, funny. I watched it because of the main actress, not even because of Seongguk, to be perfectly honest, who is also somebody in Suspicious Partner. But Doom at Your Service is the best thing that's airing on television right now, hands down.
Hands down. To me, it is all the things that I had loved about Goblin and the good parts of Tale of the Nine-Tail.
Yeah.
Mixed together in a almost darker tone.
Yeah.
And I am here for it. I'm already, even in the first episode, I fell in love with the show. It pulled me in instantly. And I know a lot of that has to do with Park Bo-young and Seongguk, which we've talked about in our first episode about how we start watching something because of actors that have been in it.
Right.
They are a definite draw to this series, and they bring so much to this show.
Oh yeah. No. So Park Bo-young is amazing and has amazing chemistry with I'm pretty sure there was a joke going around Soompi, but honestly, and again, I don't really ship real actors together, but I honestly do think that like Park Hyung-sik might have fallen in love with her at some point.
No, he mentioned that he did.
And so,
yeah.
And like he legitimately, like she's just a really good actress, and I think it just comes off that way whenever she acts with somebody else. And if you've seen any of the behind the scenes stuff from Doom, it's just so good. They're so comfortable with each other. They're laughing, having a good time.
Well, they were in Abyss together.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, okay, so Park Bo-young plays one of the main characters, and Seongguk plays a support role that is in there like maybe 1 or 2 episodes, if even.
Okay.
But they were on set together, together for that. So they probably got a good rapport together. Yeah.
That's interesting. They're just so good together. I threw around the idea with Tristan when we were watching it, I think around episode 2. I think, and I'm not 100% behind this yet, but I do think that there is something that we are missing. Either Doom was part of her life for more than the show has shown us, and maybe that's why all of these terrible things have happened to her, because she and her brother have had a pretty shitty life. And I don't know if that has something to do with it, because she first met him at the funeral when he was crying over God dying, and she was crying over her mother dying, and it was all too coincidental for me.
And that's a big trope in the fantasy type dramas, is you meet your destiny, your fate, whoever you're supposed to be with, and somehow y'all have known each other for so many more years, and this twisted world has just regurgitated things, and like, here, now y'all are thrust together again.
And now and now everything is around you. I also want to throw out there that if you guys have things to say about God, I'm here to listen to your theories about her. I'm not 100% sold on the theory that she's God. I'm referring to her as God because I don't know what she's actually billed as. Surprisingly, I have not gone on the K-drama sub to see any of this, so it's fine.
I mean, I don't want any spoilers or anybody else's ideas thrown. Like you have enough ideas for both of us, so I don't need anybody else's ideas on what it's about.
That's funny. Yeah, so it's just listed as deity.
Oh, so she might be like Doom or Fate, another type of
that's interesting. I like that a lot. And I also want to make a comment about my man being in the show because, God, he's fantastic. It's his voice for me. Every time I hear him, I'm just like, God, I just love him.
Oh, the guy from The Scholar That Walks at Night?
Lee So-hyuk. He was in The Scholar That Walks at Night. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
He plays a vampire. How have you not seen that? Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because I haven't seen it either. But isn't your dude in that one?
That's a good question. I was just thinking, is Lee Jung-gi in that?
That's who I was thinking is also in that one.
It is Lee Jung-gi. I don't remember this one. I've seen it. It's marked as seen in my drama list, but I honestly, I was rewatching It's Okay That's Love, and there's a lot of scenes that I was like, oh geez, I don't remember this. So, I'm old. It happens.
Well, another reason, I'm also watching this for the guy from Run On, Kang Tae-oh. Loved his character in Run On. We'll see how his character in this goes. He has some type of familial relationship with your dude. No clue. We'll see what's going on with that one. And then
so if you watched episode 4, you found out that he's his teacher.
His teacher.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I say teacher, but he's not really a teacher. He's like a substitute.
He's like tutor. And then it's got Dawan from SF9.
Right.
Who we were waiting for because he had mentioned in Kingdom that he was
going to be on the show.
On the set with Po Young and So In-guk, and we're like, wait, what? He's in this? So I really like him as the brother.
Park Bo Young's character is so amazing. The plot device for falling in love with Doom to get out of her brother dying was literally the best part of episode 2? 3?
It's at the end of 3.
I think it was the end of episode 3.
Yes.
And it was just amazing. And
I think she threw him for a loop.
Yes. So the only other thing we got to talk about is we watched the first 2 episodes of Oh My Boss.
Yeah, so I've taken 2 years of Japanese in college, and that's not to say that I can speak Japanese at all, because I can't, but I can differentiate good speakers and not so good speakers. And I love Mook, don't get me wrong, but the way that she breaks her sentences up is a little jarring to listen to sometimes when she's speaking Japanese.
So some of the things I did like, I love Mook. I've said this before. I do think she's adorable, and she brings the same energy to her shows that she, it's pretty much the same. I hate saying that. I'm not saying that she's not a diverse actress. I am saying that she gets cast pretty much in the same role a lot. And I'm okay with it because I tend to really like those characters. And the character here is really, really shy, but she's smart. Okay. So if I can't have my strong woman, I need at least to be able to say that, she's not some dumb idiot that's just going to do whatever the main male says. I don't want my female lead to just simp the whole series for the man. That's not what I want to see in my female lead. I want her to at least have her wits about her enough to where she's interesting. And Mook does that well. She does the shy, interesting, smart character well. I have a complaint, though, about this. Tristan and I had this same comment. Being a secretary is a downgrade from what she was doing.
Yes.
And it is a bad writer who couldn't figure out how to make it work better than just downgrading the actress to a secretary from a translator. I was really unhappy with that progression.
Yeah, when he announced it at the party that that's what she was going to do, I was like, wait a second. She's worked so hard to be like, you have to go through so much to be a good translator. And now you're just going to have her sit at a desk and book your flights and take care of your schedule.
And feed him coffee at intervals.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, I was really upset. So I'm going to continue to watch it because I think what the writer was going for was something closer to Les Interpretres and Refresh Man. So it reminded me a lot of Les Interpretres, which I'm mispronouncing. It's a Chinese series. And Refresh Man. In Refresh Man, not the main character, so not the girl that wants to be his secretary. She wants to be the head secretary, but the girl who actually is his secretary that comes in, she's billed as a secretary, but in the series itself, she is his translator. She's basically his right-hand man, okay? That is the way that Oh My Boss should have billed Mook's character, in my opinion. She should have been a right-hand man, not just a secretary or PA.
Yeah, so for me, the way that I would like to see her is like how What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, how indispensable she is to him. Like, she learns Spanish and English.
She learns several languages.
She learns several languages
on her own
to keep up with him to the point where he doesn't need to worry about anything that's going on because she's got it covered.
Right. And so she's billed as a secretary, obviously, because the name of the series is Secretary Kim, right? Mm-hmm. But it's made so much more clear in the series that he literally would not be able to do anything without her because she is, like Tristan said, indispensable. And that's where I want Mook's character to go. I'm going to watch it anyway because I think the chemistry is really good between them. I like the mean male leads.
But he's not mean. He's a prankster.
He's mean. Tristan just refuses, but there's moments where he just like, he's in the car down the street, like staring at her, watching her like angrily type on her phone, and he's like grinning away, knowing that he like screwed up her whole night. And taking her on vacation with him. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is screwing up her life. He's a mean male lead.
I didn't say he wasn't, screwing up her life. But I guess I'm in the wrong here that I think it's slightly more endearing with the pranking because he likes her. You can tell. I think at one point he's probably upset at the fact that she never called him.
Right.
He doesn't know she lost the card, but he might be trying to, in some weird fashion, not get back at her, but not give her an easy time of it because he does like her and doesn't want to show it as much.
I agree with that. I just also think that he has a bit of the mean male lead. Try to say that 3 times fast, by the way. It's a tongue twister. Not going to do anything.
Mean male lead.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, no, it's hard.
Too much. So today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about dramas that have stuck with us long after we're done with watching them. So whether good emotional or bad emotional, anywhere in between, anything that has just made a big impression while we've been watching it.
I do like that this is the episode that I decided to watch the Blue Hour and then go
I didn't even think about that.
And then go like off on how it's
so now we're going to be talking about more emotional stuff.
But a lot happier. None of these on our list, except for The Effect, have anything like the Blue Hour. So I want to start with MODC.
Okay.
Because
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
That one is so. The sad thing is, I loved Make Our Days Count so much. The chemistry, the relationship. all of it. And then that ending had to go and ruin the entire show, the entire thing. It's one, like, I really like the History series. Well, 2 and 3 and 4. I don't really like History 1 that much, but they could have done so much with History 3, Make Our Days Count. And even if they had alluded more to the fact that, what's his name? I didn't write his name down. The one that got into the accident.
Spoiler alert.
Well, did we put a spoiler alert? Spoiler alert for everything that we're about to say for all of the rest of this segment. When he got into his accident and then you see him again, but not playing the same guy, there's all these rumors that he got hit and then his family is pretending like he died, but he actually has amnesia and just doesn't remember it. And they don't want him to be back in his relationship with Wayne.
So that is the premise that they're sticking with. I say that is this premise but let me define that pronoun real quick. Reddit seems to think that History 5 will be a MODC 2, basically, and they think that it's amnesia, like you said. I'm not necessarily on board with this. I'm ready for them to just leave it alone, honestly. Tristan probably disagrees. I don't want more of it.
So I loved their characters. Like, I would love to watch more of them.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I bawled my eyes out when he got into his accident, and the scenes where Wayne's character is looking at old photos. I could not. That whole scene just broke me.
Yeah. So I binged MODC. So as multiple people have said on Reddit, it is not something that you want to binge watch if you have not seen it, because the main character dies at the very end of the series. Mm-hmm. So it is not a series to binge watch. I personally put down dramas after that for I'd say about 2 weeks. I was devastated and just kind of really unhappy. To me, it felt like really lazy writing. It was just really lazy. The series had been going so well and everything was written so well. The characters were interesting. Even the 2 side characters were interesting. It feels like the writer just really wanted that phrase is je ne sais quoi. They wanted that thing, to really make the series pop. And I feel like that's why the character died. Tristan shaking her head.
I'm shaking my head because I agree.
Oh, okay. I thought she disagreed.
No, I agree because they could have done so many other things.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted to go for an impact.
Yep. It was lazy.
Yeah.
I disagree. I disagree that, impact needs to have a character death. I think that's just dumb and lazy writing.
And that's not to say that I didn't like Make Our Days Count. I do. I really liked it.
I liked it. I liked everything up to the last episode.
Yes. And and it's one of the ones, like, I still want everybody to see it at least once, but just know going into it that the ending, if you just cut out the end, it is fantastic.
Yep. So speaking of endings that could just be cut and or just added, I'm going to say for my K-drama group on Wednesdays that has not yet seen the end of Scarlet Heart, if we're not there already,
skip ahead.
You need to turn this off or skip ahead. So this is my feeling. This is one of those series where I feel like it could have done a second season. I mean, they just did Lee Jung-gi's birthday, and IU still called him and still brought it up even to this day. This series was out in like 2016. So even today, they still talk about like, oh yeah, we could do a season 2 and we'd be super happy. If you don't know, Scarlet Heart had a season 2 in China that actually didn't do as well as the first season. I did not watch it. I didn't even watch the Chinese version at all.
I haven't seen it.
I couldn't get through it. I tried, and it was not good in my opinion. So
it didn't have Lee Jung-gi in it.
And it didn't have Lee Jung-gi, so I don't really see what the point was. But I will say the ending of Scarlet Heart broke my heart in so many ways and is so emotionally devastating for me. I like to think that cut scene where she sees him in the art gallery at the end.
Where he's handing her the handkerchief?
Yeah. So I like to think that that's the ending rather than what was actually the ending, which was she was torn out of the Goryeo period and dropped back into the 21st century. I like to think that was the ending more than anything. But Scarlet Heart, our K-drama group has this, and in their defense, they don't know Korean history very well, but our group has this feeling that Wang So is a good guy and that he is gonna do things righteously, and
because love conquers all, right?
Because love conquers all. And in their defense, it's kind of weird for international fans. You know, we didn't expect the ending because, right, we don't know the history of Gwangjong.
Yes.
Like, we just don't know it. So we went in thinking that it was going to be this, super sweet, like, time travel romance, and then we got the end that we did. So it's one of those things where I am trying to keep it super hush hush, because if you haven't seen it, I would still prefer you to watch it yourself, because it's much more impactful that way. And it wasn't lazy writing in this one. Anyway, we'll go back to that. But, you know, it's worth it. It's worth it for a watch just because.
I mean, it's up there in one of my tops. I love Scarlet Heart, and I'm so glad that we're able to share it with our K-drama group, because, you know, they've never seen it. And so far, I think we just got through episode 4 with the group, and they're all really liking it so far. And we told them, of course, that they're going to have to start having tissues moving forward.
Yeah, there's so the cousin's death is coming up, and I feel like I told the group, like, you should probably just expect that it's going to break your heart. I don't actually know, every time it's Wook. I don't know why, but I can never remember his stage name. I always remember that it's Kang Ha-nul. The shit with him and the being a creepy old man who likes multiple women even though he's married is just gross and whatever, but that's about to come to a head. So that's about where we are.
Yeah, no, Rachel and I have already made a pact that once we get to a certain point, we're going to have to watch it together.
Yes.
Because we've both seen it. We've gone through the heartbreak that is this show.
Right.
So we know what's coming. We know what to expect. And at a certain point, we're going to start watching it together so that we can be each other's emotional support. Because even though we've seen it, it's going to wreck us all over again. If we're going into why are so impactful, meaning that they're sad. Okay, well, let's talk about Bride of the Water God for a second.
Oh, yeah, that one was easy.
Because I never finished it.
So I read the manhwa.
So my friend had read the manhwa, and she was so ecstatic that there was going to be a K-drama for this show. And we're like, yeah, we'll watch it together. This was a couple of years ago when it was first coming out. And we got together. We were so happy. And she couldn't even get through the first episode.
No, it was awful.
And I dropped it. It is probably the fastest thing I've ever dropped. And to this day, I haven't picked it back up. And that sticks with you when you can't get through something that fast.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be good. I was so excited for it. I was commenting all over Soompi. I was, following it on Vicky. Was it Vicky or Drama Fever? I think it was.
It was probably Drama Fever.
I want to say it was Drama Fever. But anyway, I was over the moon excited about this series. I was really looking forward to it because I had read the manhwa and I knew the story was, how good the story could be. And then the screenwriter decided that they were going to plot them in modern day Korea instead of the original series. And it just didn't work well, in my opinion. It wasn't interesting, in my opinion. The only thing that was good looking was the cinematography was interesting, but that's not enough for me to keep a show. Not at all. And
you have better fantasy type stories.
Yeah.
That this was not.
Goblin.
Goblin. If Goblin is not everybody's top choice for their shows.
For fantasy.
They're missing out because Goblin is just so good. The cinematography, the writing, the characters, the storyline, all of it just culminates in this amazing show that leaves your heart broken every single time you get to a specific episode and then on till the end.
Yep, it's true. And all the acting in Goblin is superb. Everybody puts 1,000% into what they do. It just seems like to me, Kim Eun-suk just knows what she's doing when she writes these series. She really does. Like, I talk about her all the time because, she really does know what she's doing when she writes. Like, she plays to a very specific type of genre and people really react to it and really respond. So
yeah, you could watch anything of hers and not be disappointed.
Yeah, except for Secret Garden.
Yeah, that one doesn't count. that one doesn't exist. We push that under the sofa.
We both pretend like it doesn't exist.
I've seen it. It doesn't exist.
It's so bad. So I will say, though, if we're going to talk about fantasy dramas, that ending for Tale of the Nine-Tailed was so lazy.
No, so Tale of the Nine-Tails, so good, so good, so good. And then we're just going to cut the entire ending episode off because there was no point to it whatsoever.
And Lee Rong dying was totally worthless, in my opinion.
There was no point to it at all.
They had, I'm just not, literally the veterinarian and the fox girl, I always forget their names, were the best part of the whole series.
So cute.
Yeah, no, they were the best part of the whole series, and Lee Rong dying was totally worthless, in my opinion. Everything that had happened up until the point when he died, it made for some, again, lazy writing. You talk about some lazy writing. MODC, Tale of the Nine-Tailed at the end, just cinched it for me.
With Tale of the Nine-Tailed, it's like they put in a plot point of, is he human? Is he not human? Who knows? We don't know ourselves.
Yeah.
To the point where it just diminishes everything that he had worked towards in the entire series.
Yeah, so the main character had this beautiful moment where he was going to give himself up and for the main female lead. And they instead, reincarnation is a thing in Korea. And I'm not saying that it's a bad plot device, but when you lead up to a point in a series where you say that he's going to have to sacrifice himself and then you don't use it just because you want them to have a happily ever after, that's useless and worthless, in my opinion. And it really doesn't do the show any justice.
See, that goes into a lot of people expect happy endings. I'm the type of person that if it doesn't warrant it or if it doesn't need it in a story, don't put it in there. Yeah. I'm perfectly okay with having an unhappy ending to a story if the story doesn't write itself to have it.
And Tale of the Nine-Tailed and Make Our Days Count, both of those are bad for different reasons, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Tale of the Nine-Tailed, the same reason, but different reasons, right? Tale of the Nine-Tailed shouldn't have had a happy ending, and MODC should have had a happy ending. There was literally zero reason why the writers did that. I'm very disappointed in them, and it won't necessarily mean that I wouldn't watch any more of their stuff, but it does mean that, I don't think as highly as I should of their series.
Yeah, it's definitely tainted anything moving forward with those.
So we have Addicted on our list, but honestly, I'm taking it off because Addicted doesn't really have an ending, right?
Yeah, no, it just cuts.
So we have Addicted on our list because, this is for any dramas that have an emotional fallout, right?
Well, the emotional fallout for Addicted is that it cut off.
Right.
And we've talked about it before with the Chinese band. So we can just move on from that one because
I'm going to say one thing.
No.
I did finally finish Counterattack. So
the book, the 300 chapter book.
300 chapter book, and it was really good. It is Chai Ji-dan all the way through. So if you don't like Chai Ji-dan's work, I'd say it is not for you. It is dark, and the main male lead is pushy, and there's non-con, and there's a whole of dark scene. The whole series is basically dark scenes. So I don't necessarily recommend it to anybody that's light of heart.
So you're sending me these chapters, right?
Yeah, I'm sending these chapters to you. So my next foray into Chai Ji-dan will be Addicted, and I'm really excited because the Reddit sub seems to say that Addicted as a book is the best thing they've ever read ever.
Oh, okay.
Even more so, from what I can tell, even more so than the Untamed, or what's the other historical one? Because
Word of Honor.
Word of Honor. One of those, I don't remember which one, I'd have to look it up, but one of those has apparently some really sketchy stuff in the book, and so everybody says that Addicted is much, much better. I'm biased anyway because I really like Chai Ji-dan. I have not.
Did you finish reading Advance Bravely?
I did. Yeah. I finished that one several weeks ago. It's super short if you guys haven't read it. It's like maybe 100 chapters, maybe 150. So
okay.
For her, that's really short. And I was like, oh yeah, I can get through this in a week, no problem. So that one,
that took you 2 days.
Yeah, that one took me 2 days. So that one has more of a mainstream appeal is the thing is the word I'm looking for.
I can see that.
there's no problematic scenes in that one because the main male lead to the other male lead is just like a caring, he does everything for him basically. So it isn't quite like Counterattack, which is not that way at all.
Not that way. Well, if we're talking about problematic, The Effect. I know you mentioned this earlier. So The Effect is a movie. It's a BL movie that deals with rape. It deals with suicide. It deals with post-traumatic stress.
It is not a BL. I'm gonna interrupt her. It's not a BL. It is a story about a kid who is coming to terms with the fact that he's gay that rapes another student. It is not a BL. There are no BL moments in this, and I dislike that my drama list bills it as a BL, and my co-host is in agreement with me. She doesn't really think that it's sweet and lovey either.
Oh,
that's not what we're saying. But I do not think this is not a series that you should watch if you're like, oh yeah, I definitely want to watch a BL. This is not a gay series. This is not a BL series. This is a series about a boy who is realizing that he's gay, who rapes a straight boy in his class, and that's what it's about. It's awful.
Awful in the sense that the storyline is awful. The movie itself,
the movie is good.
They did it really well. It's not something that I highly recommend to people because if you can't deal with very sensitive topics, don't watch this at all. But it's a really well done movie.
It is. So after watching The Blue Hour, in my opinion, The Blue Hour is better and deals with the topics better. The Effect tries too hard to be a BL, and it's not, and it shouldn't be billed that way. But I will say, even saying that, I still really liked The Effect. If you're looking for heart-wrenching, interesting, I'd say The Blue Hour is a little bit better and holds more water for me than The Effect does. But The Effect, I think the problem with The Effect is it goes through too many of the heavy topics rather than just focusing on one thing.
I could see, because once you get to a certain point, it's one thing after another.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm biased because I literally just watched The Blue Hour, over the weekend.
And guns in it.
And guns in it. And God, he's good. The Blue Hour, in my opinion, is just much, much, much more interesting and sad. It feels weird to tell people to go watch something that's sad. But if that's your thing.
Sometimes that's what you need. I get to a point where sometimes, that the pounding against your eyes that you're I need to watch something that's going to make me cry.
Yep. No, I get that.
Yeah, there are some times when a sad movie is what you need to watch.
Our last series on the list
is one of my favorites.
Is one of our favorites that I think we talk about this series every podcast.
Well, so I think for both of us, it was one of our first ones, right? Not first, but when we first got into watching Asian dramas. Because Hanayori Dango came out, 2006?
2006.
It's been out for such a long time. And to this day, it is one of my favorites. The Japanese version of it.
I was going to say the Japanese version.
The Japanese version. Jun Matsumoto is fantastic as Domyoji. And I can't get enough of this show. The OST is fantastic. And I still have the opening song on my Spotify list because I love it so much. Jun Matsumoto is in the group that does the opening.
We've said earlier, we have our online K-drama group on Wednesdays that watches stuff, and we're watching Scarlet Heart right now. My intent is to show them Hanayori Dango, but I just don't know if emotionally they will be prepared to go from the horrifying end that is Scarlet Heart to even a more emotionally devastating, which is Hanayori Dango is good. I don't want to dissuade you from reading, watching, or, doing whatever it is, anime, manga, whatever it is you want to do for Hanayori Dango. It is good. I'm still in the process of collecting the manga. That's literally how much I like the series. As I've said in prior episodes, there are a lot of problems in Hanayori Dango, right? There's bullying. There's almost a rape scene twice, actually. Again, the series is super problematic. I'm not saying this to dissuade you, but I am saying that it has a lot of shoujo tropes. And if you're into that, like we are, then we would say it's really good. But the anime is not for the weak-hearted. Neither is the manga. We'll put it that way. The series itself, and when I say series, I mean the drama series itself, they picked the good parts of the manga and coalesced it into something a little bit more digestible by the mainstream public than what was in the manga, which was a lot of problematic behavior, a lot of things that shouldn't have been there. There were still things in the drama series that were problematic. The bullying is still there, but again, in the Japanese version, Tristan's like so tired of me talking about this, I'm sure, but in the Japanese version, they don't have 9 million episodes like they do for the Korean series, where they go into every single thing that's in the anime or manga. And I don't even remember. How many episodes were there for the South Korean version? Like
16, wasn't it?
30?
Is it 30?
No, it's super long. She's going to look it up. I'm going to keep talking about it. So, for whatever reason, the South Korean version was just so long because they wanted to do the whole thing because they're crazy.
25.
25. That's what I'm saying. It was really long. And those episodes were like an hour and 15 minutes each. So that's insane in my opinion. The Japanese version had 2 seasons,
but
and
still it totals into 20 episodes in total for season 1 and 2, not including the finale.
That doesn't seem too far off from South Korean version, but I will tell you, they just dealt with a lot of stuff better in the Japanese.
For me, I liked the chemistry of the actors way better in the Japanese.
I also don't like Lee Min-ho very much. He's not my cup of tea. I don't have a feeling about
you're gonna get some crap for that.
Really ugly people are gonna be so ugly about it. No, he's just not my cup of tea personally, and I think that might be why I'm not a huge fan. Also, I just think the South Korean version is just too long. I really do. But the Japanese version, the movie, every time I own it, and I watch it every once in a while just to watch the end because I just really like the end. It's just happy, and it's everything that I wanted for, because if you've read the manga ending, it's very similar. So I highly recommend it. Hanayori Dango, really good ending, and the series is so much fun, and the Japanese version actors are so good.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. One of the ones, like, I wish I had more people that have seen this series.
I'm not enough for this bitch, is what she's saying.
No, you're not at all. No, there are people that I can't show it to that I don't think would enjoy it as much, but I wish that everybody has seen it because it is so good and at least needs to be watched once by everybody who is into anything Asian related.
So before we end the episode, in other news, not necessarily related to dramas, we've got some food for thought. For whatever dumb reason, and I said this earlier, I started Off Gun Fun Night because, because I needed something to break up all of this crap that I'm watching that's just so serious. Like, I really like Doom, don't get me wrong, but it's heavy, right? And so, Fish Upon the Sky is only 1 episode a week, and Lovely Writer's done, and it started getting heavy there at the end, so I needed something to break it up. I started watching Off Gun Fun Night, and I just have a few comments, really, really, really quick comments about this.
She didn't write them down, so I can't count them this time.
She can't count my comments, guys. So at the beginning of this, I've said some of this before, I should say. At the beginning of the series, you can tell that Off and Gun don't really know how this is going to be, kind of how the audience is going to feel about their series. It's kind of new for them. They don't really know what they're doing. And then it gets to, there's a, and I don't know episode numbers. I don't remember. I literally they're only like 15 minutes a pop. I watched a whole ton of them because they're super short and really cute, but they get to a point you can very obviously tell where Gun and Off play up the fact that they were in a series together, and they play up the chemistry. So I have said before on the show that, I think they know very well what they're doing, and that they're really good at it, and they're really comfortable with each other because they're really close friends. I have said that before, and I'm gonna definitely stick by it now that I've seen Fun Night. These boys are doing it intentionally, and especially on Fun Night. Like, you can tell, like, they're playing up to an audience, and neither one of them is uncomfortable with it or weirded out. I don't personally think, I don't know their minds, obviously, but there is a moment where the show literally changes and they become a lot more like, oh yeah, this is who we are and this is what we're going to do because we know you guys like it. And that's what ends up happening. And it's good. I like it. It's fun. It's, it's off Gun. I swear, Gun's such a little goofy troublemaker. Like they're super cute together, but Gun is my favorite. And after seeing the Blue Hour, I have so much respect for him. It's crazy.
So I've seen a couple of clips here and there with Sing Tu Chris and Tae Nu.
Right.
So I've seen a couple of them and they're really entertaining to watch.
They are really entertaining.
So of course we also watched episode 8 of Kingdom, which was fantastic.
It was so good.
I'm not going to go into too much of it, but I will say that the rap that was done by the Mayfly team was like, I've already put it on my Spotify. I had to listen to the song forever and ever. The song itself, the topic of the song, the choreo, like all of it, just so good. Definitely. Like, I know Rachel was mentioning that she didn't know which one she liked better because the other group did really good with their with the dance, not the rap. Oh, the dancing, not the rap.
It was not.
Oh, that's right.
Rap.
No, because we didn't like the other rap. That's right.
Oh my god,
the other rap, the Bobby and
Bobby's rap was
rap was so bad. That's right. It was the dance sequence that we didn't know because both teams did really well on the dance sequence. But there had to have been a clear winner for the rap sequence. So we're looking forward. Episode just came out with the vocals and I think the first part of the single no team dances. I really wish that they had kind of kept it as how it was in Road to Kingdom, where it was just them judging themselves, basically. It was so much better.
I'm not here for the bullshit voting, and I'm not here for this. Let's wait a week before we give you the actual results of what's happening.
A week. They waited forever. We just now got the global rankings for their
2 weeks.
First one. Yeah, so it took forever. I will say this episode had a lot of good inner team camaraderie. Yeah, it was good to see the teams work and collaborate with each other, especially our guys from Stray Kids and ATs because we love them. So looking forward to their vocal stages.
I am too. That is actually all we have for you tonight, guys. So I hope you have a good night. We will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Nooniverse. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe. Want to learn more about the show? Follow The Nooniverse on socials so you can stay tuned for future episodes, special announcements, and much more. See you in the next episode.